We all juggle different identities, right? Like who we are at work, at home, with friends. But have you ever stopped to think if there's like a primary identity that shapes all the others?
That's a deep question to start with.
It is. And today we're diving into a really interesting take on this from Rhapsody of Realities by Pastor Chris.
Yes.
It suggests that for Christians, their main allegiance, their authority actually comes from a heavenly kingdom, even while, living right here.
Right here on Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fascinating concept.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Could your everyday actions have this deeper, maybe even heavenly weight?
Definitely food for thought.
So our mission today is basically to unpack this whole idea of a heavenly identity. We want to explore the key parts and figure out what it might mean for, your perspective, your actions.
Sounds good. And I think the first thing that really jumps out is that core idea of citizenship.
Heavenly citizenship.
Exactly. The devotional points to Philippians 3.2, Neil, the Amplified Version. It says, "But we are citizens of the state, which is in heaven."
Okay.
So it's saying, while, we live on this planet, our primary belonging, our sort of home base, is somewhere else.
It's like that idea of being in the world but not of the world.
Precisely. It gives a framework for that. Your fundamental identity isn't earthly, it's heavenly.
Okay, so if that's our primary citizenship, heaven, how does that actually work day to day? The devotional says something pretty bold.
What's that?
It says we reign and rule from there, from heaven.
Reign and rule. Strong words.
Yeah, and it brings in Isaiah 32.1 about a king reigning in righteousness and princes ruling in judgment.
Right.
Now, naturally, you hear reign and rule and you think,
Politics, earthly power, government.
exactly. But the devotional is quick to say, nope, that's not it. It's not about earthly political control.
Which is a really important clarification.
So what kind of ruling are we talking about then? What kind of influence or authority if it's not, being a mayor or something?
Well, the devotional frames it as authority that comes from God's kingdom. And that kingdom is seen as superior to all earthly powers.
Superior. Okay.
Think of it like a higher jurisdiction. Your ability to influence things, your authority, it doesn't come from earthly status. It comes from this connection to the heavenly kingdom.
So it's less about running a country and more about operating under a different, higher set of principles and power.
That seems to be the core idea. It's
Yeah.
about understanding where your true backing comes from.
That actually leads nicely into this analogy they use, which I found pretty helpful.
Oh, yeah. What's the analogy?
It's like a military base, stationed in a foreign country.
Okay, I can picture that.
So the base is physically, there in another nation, but who does it answer to?
Its home country, obviously. Its own government.
Right. It operates with the full authority and follows the directives of its home government, even though it's on foreign soil.
That is a powerful image. It really clarifies things.
Doesn't it? So if you apply that to Christians.
And then they're like outposts, extensions of God's kingdom, physically here, but operating under heaven's directives.
Exactly. Their actions, their purpose, their instructions should reflect their home government heaven.
So thinking about that analogy,
Mhm.
for someone listening, maybe facing a tough decision at work or in their community, how does seeing yourself as operating from a heavenly base change things?
That's a great question for reflection, definitely. And it builds on this next idea, too, doesn't it? The idea of being ambassadors.
Yes. Ambassadors for Christ. That's straight from 2 Corinthians 5.20.
We are ambassadors for Christ as though God did beseech you by us. We know what ambassadors do, right? They represent their home country abroad.
And they function with the authority of that home country. They're not just tourists.
Right.
So in this view, Christians aren't just passive residents here. They're active representatives. Their presence, their actions are meant to be a declaration of heaven's rule, its values.
Manifesting the kingdom, so to speak.
You could put it that way.
Yeah.
Embodying its principles in everyday life.
Which ties into what the devotional says next about this not just being about status, but about actively manifesting God's righteousness and judgment.
Right. Living it out.
So it's about applying those heavenly standards in your own life, your own sphere of influence. But what does that look like practically? Manifesting righteousness and judgment sounds a bit intense.
Yeah, judgment can sound harsh. But I think in this context, it's less about condemnation and more about upholding and demonstrating what's considered right and just according to those heavenly principles.
Okay.
So practically, it could mean acting with integrity in business, showing compassion, speaking up against injustice in your own circle, making choices aligned with those values.
So it's about living by a higher standard in your everyday stuff.
Essentially, yes.
Yep.
reflecting the character of the kingdom you represent in your corner of the world.
Okay. Then there's this other concept introduced, binding and loosing. It quotes Matthew 18:19.
Whatever we bind on earth is bound in heaven, and whatever we loose on earth is loosed in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds significant, like a lot of authority. How does that fit with ruling from heaven?
It is significant. It suggests a really direct connection, doesn't it? A sort of correspondence between earthly actions or maybe declarations and heavenly reality.
Like what you do or say here has an echo or an effect up there.
That seems to be the implication. Within Christian thought, it's often linked to spiritual authority, prayer, maybe setting things in order spiritually. In this context, it really emphasizes the level of influence believers are thought to have, connecting their earthly actions to a heavenly mandate.
Wow. Okay, so bringing this all back down to earth maybe, what are the big takeaways for someone listening?
Well, the devotional really encourages people to walk in the consciousness of your heavenly identity.
Be aware of it. Live aware of it.
Yes. And to actively establish his righteousness and judgment, again, meaning those values in your sphere of influence.
And it's crucial to remember this isn't about checking out of earthly life, is it? Not at all. It's not about escaping responsibility here. It's about engaging with those responsibilities, but from a completely different foundation.
A different source of authority, a different purpose.
Exactly. It's meant to change the way you engage, approaching your job, your family, your community, with this underlying sense of heavenly citizenship and purpose.
So it really shifts your whole perspective.
Fundamentally, yes. It moves from just getting through the day to living with a sense of perhaps divine partnership and influence, no matter what you're doing.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. If this idea of heavenly citizenship is real for you, how might that change how you look at the problems or the opportunities right in front of you today? What does it actually mean, practically, to think from heaven when you've got a decision to make, big or small?
It's definitely a concept that invites some deep personal reflection on purpose and influence. How do you see your role in the world through this lens?
Absolutely. Lots to think about there. Well, thanks for exploring this with us today.
My pleasure. It's a compelling idea.
It really is. Thanks again for tuning into this deep dive.
For more information on how you can grow spiritually using Rhapsody of Realities, please visit our website, www.rhapsodyofrealities.org, or you can also visit rin.rhapsodyofrealities.org/salvation. Thank you.